If you're anything like me, Tuesday nights in the late 70s meant one thing. Two girls skipping down the street, arm in arm, chanting words we barely understood but sang along to anyway. Laverne and Shirley felt like friends we already had. It's been 50 years since they first walked into our homes, and the real lives of the people who played them turned out to be just as unforgettable. That show wasn't just comedy, it was comfort. Two working-class girls chasing something better, and we were right there beside them. So let's walk through what happened to the cast who made it all feel so real. I'd love to know who you watch this show with. A parent, a sibling, a best friend on the couch after dinner. Those small memories are what this channel is built on. Share yours as we go. And we'll start with a voice you can probably still hear singing. You heard him before you saw him. That voice, big and full, cutting through the laugh track like it belonged on a real stage. Eddie Mecca played Carmine Ragusa, the boxer who danced, the singer who never quite made it. But Carmine wasn't just Shirley's boyfriend. He was every kid who practiced in front of the mirror and believed tomorrow would be the day. What most fans never knew is that Mecca earned a Tony nomination before he ever set foot on the Laverne and Shirley set. The 1975 Broadway musical, The Lieutenant, put him on the map. He trained at Berklee College of Music. The talent was never in question. He was just 23 when the show began. After it ended, he kept performing. National tours of Greece, a run as Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof, solo singing shows across Florida that loyal fans traveled hours to see. Eddie Mecca passed away in 2021 at 69. He left us the way Carmine would have wanted to be remembered, still chasing the spotlight, still believing in the next song. Before she was the landlady knocking on Laverne and Shirley's door, Betty Garrett was dancing alongside Gene Kelly in On the Town. She'd stood under MGM's biggest spotlights, sang with Frank Sinatra. And then, almost overnight, Hollywood tried to make her disappear. The blacklist era nearly ended everything. Her husband was targeted, work dried up. But Betty Garrett didn't vanish. She rebuilt, quietly and completely. By the time she arrived on Laverne and Shirley as Edna Babish, she was 57 years old. 5 fictional divorces behind her, and still open to love. That wasn't just a character, that was Betty. She showed viewers that starting over wasn't weakness. It was the bravest thing a person could do. She kept going long after the show ended. A Broadway revival of Follies in 2001, an Emmy nomination for Becker in 2003, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that same year. She co-founded Theatre West and was teaching class the week before she died. Betty Garrett left us in 2011 at 91. She'd earned every single year. And she wasn't the only one in this cast whose real life turned out to be bigger than the character they played. She never knocked. Rhonda Lee just walked in, announced herself in the third person, and expected everyone to be thrilled about it. Leslie Easterbrook made vanity lovable. She was the neighbor who reminded us that a little too much confidence could be the funniest thing in the room. Easterbrook joined the show in its 6th season and learned trumpet specifically for the role. After Laverne and Shirley, she became Sergeant Callahan in the Police Academy franchise. She even sang the national anthem at Super Bowl 17. She was 30 when she first played Rhonda. Today, at 76, she still carries the same spark we remember. No retirement announcements. No slowing down. Every sitcom had a dad. But not every dad made you wish he was yours. Phil Foster played Frank DeFazio, like he'd been someone's father his whole life. Gruff voice, short temper, and a heart so big it barely fit inside the pizza bowl. He called Laverne Muffin. He treated Shirley like a second daughter. And when he married Edna Babish on screen, it felt like the whole neighborhood was invited. What most viewers never knew was that Phil Foster's real name was Fievel Feldman, a Brooklyn kid, son of Russian immigrants, who took his stage name from a street called Foster Avenue. He'd started as a nightclub comic in the 1930s, served in the Army during World War II, and spent decades making crowds laugh before Gary Marshall called him to Hollywood. He was 62 when the show premiered. Just 2 years after it ended, he was gone. Phil Foster passed away in 1985 at 72. The pizza bowl closed, but the feeling of sitting in it never really did. If any of these names are bringing back a feeling you haven't thought about in years, you're not alone. I'm right there with you. And there are a few more faces ahead that I think you'll be glad you stayed for. The door swings open, no knock, and before anyone can react, that voice hits the room. Hello! If you just heard it in your head, you're not alone. David Lander turned a single word into one of the most recognizable entrances in television history. Squiggy was odd, uninvited, and completely himself. He never tried to fit in, and somehow that made him the one you couldn't forget. For anyone who ever felt like the strange kid at the table, Squiggy said you belonged there anyway. Lander and Michael McKean created those characters together at Carnegie Mellon University, years before any camera rolled. They even released an album as Lenny and the Squigtones in 1979. The guitarist on that record? A young Christopher Guest, credited as Nigel Tufnell. 5 years later, that name would become rock comedy legend. But behind the laughs, Lander carried something no one saw. He was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 1984. For 15 years, he told nobody. When he finally went public in 1999, he became one of the most visible advocates for MS research in the country. He wrote a memoir called Fall Down Laughing. He became a goodwill ambassador for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. He was 28 when the show began. David Lander left us in 2020 at 73. His partner in comedy was still out there, and he was carrying the memory for both of them. That partner is still working, still creating, and still surprising people. But first, there's someone else this story can't be told without. On screen, Lenny Koznowski couldn't figure out his own last name. Off-screen, Michael McKean became one of the most respected actors of his generation. That gap between character and artist might be the most surprising story in this entire cast. He was 28 when the show started. Within a year of its end, he'd helped create This Is Spinal Tap, a film that redefined comedy. He co-wrote a song that earned an Oscar nomination, won a Grammy, played Chuck McGill on Better Call Saul with a precision that earned him an Emmy nomination. And then, in a move nobody predicted, he won over $1 million on Celebrity Jeopardy. Lenny was the gentle fool who made kindness look easy. He didn't have the answers, but he had the heart. McKean took that same warmth and built a career that stretches across 5 decades of film, television, Broadway, and music. Today, at 78, he is the only surviving original cast member. In 2025, he returned as David St. Hubbins in Spinal Tap 2. He played the President of the United States on Netflix's The Diplomat. Time has only deepened his range, and he's still going. But before we reach the heart of this story, there's one more face. The one who skipped beside Laverne from the very first frame. and saying goodbye to her still doesn't feel real. 50 years pass, and somehow, the girl who clutched Boo Boo Kitty still feels like someone you just saw yesterday. Cindy Williams gave Shirley Feeney a kind of hope that never felt foolish. She believed in love, in doing things right, in happy endings. And she made you want to believe in them too. Before the show, Williams had already been part of something historic. She played Laurie Henderson in George Lucas's American Graffiti and earned a BAFTA nomination. She auditioned for Princess Leia in Star Wars. Lucas chose Carrie Fisher instead, but the career that followed needed no consolation. She was 28 when Laverne and Shirley premiered. For years after it ended, she toured nationally in plays, published a memoir called Shirley, I Jest, and took a one-woman show across the country. In 2013, she reunited with Penny Marshall on the Nickelodeon series Sam and Cat. It was one of the last times they shared a screen. Cindy Williams left us in January 2023 at 75. Her children said she possessed a glittering spirit that everyone loved. Anyone who watched her play Shirley already knew that. You always knew it was her by the letter on her chest. That cursive L, stitched onto every sweater, every shirt, every season. It wasn't a costume choice. Penny Marshall spotted a vintage sweater in the wardrobe department with an initial sewn into the corner and made it Laverne's signature. A small decision that became one of the most recognizable images in television history. Laverne DeFazio was loud, stubborn, and unapologetically herself. She wasn't the pretty one. She wasn't the polished one. And that was exactly why so many people loved her. She gave permission to be imperfect. For viewers who felt like they didn't quite measure up, Laverne said, "You were already enough." Marshall was 32 when the show premiered. After it ended, she walked behind the camera and changed Hollywood. She directed Big with Tom Hanks in 1988 and became the first woman to helm a film that grossed over $100 million. Then she did it again with A League of Their Own in 1992. Her film, Awakenings, earned an Oscar nomination for Best Picture. A girl from the Bronx who once mixed Pepsi and milk because her mother forgot to rinse the glass had become a pioneer. And that chant, the one we all sang without understanding. Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hassenpfeffer, Incorporated. It wasn't written by a television writer. Penny Marshall made it up as a child, skipping to school with her friends in the Bronx. She carried it with her all the way to Hollywood, and it followed her into our living rooms every Tuesday night. Penny Marshall left us in December 2018 at 75. At Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, her headstone carries a single detail, a cursive letter L. The same one she wore for 8 seasons. The same one that told millions of viewers they were home. But we can't close this story without honoring the heart at its center. Penny Marshall didn't just make us laugh. She made ordinary feel extraordinary. A girl capping bottles in a basement apartment became someone we carried with us for decades. That takes more than talent. That takes truth. Penny Marshall left us in 2018 at 75. But every rerun still begins with 2 friends skipping down a street. Every episode still opens with that chant she brought from her childhood. She gave us something no camera could fully capture. The feeling that being exactly who you are is the only role worth playing. Some gifts don't come with credits. They just stay. 50 years. 8 lives. 1 basement apartment that somehow held all of us inside it. Laverne and Shirley wasn't just a show we watched. It was a place we belonged. Somewhere, that chant is still counting. Boo Boo Kitty is still on the couch, and the pizza bowl door is still open for anyone who needs it. So let me ask you this. When you think of Laverne and Shirley, who were you sitting beside? Tell me about that person. I read every comment, and those are the ones that stay with me. There are more stories like this one waiting. More faces, more songs, more living rooms we used to know. Until next time, take care of that memory.